Everyone in the hallway stopped when he grabbed her hand. Not because it made sense, because it didn't. Do-kyung, the rebel king of Hyehwa High, pulling Shin Ga-eun through the crowded corridor like they were a couple out of a movie. People whispered. They stared. Some even laughed. And Ga-eun. She looked like she might faint. She couldn't understand what was happening, not when she heard the words leave his mouth, loud enough for everyone to hear. This is my girlfriend now. So if any of you still think I'm available, too bad. That was how it started, with a hand grab, a declaration, and a lie. Just 3 hours earlier, Ga-eun was invisible. She had mastered the art of walking through hallways without being seen. Hunched shoulders, eyes low. Uniform neat, never daring to be different. Her world was quiet. She liked it that way, until Do-kyung walked into it, like a bomb. It was the 4th period when she found herself alone in the music room, sketching storyboards for her art club project. She didn't expect anyone to walk in. Definitely not him, but suddenly the door swung open. And there he was. Do-kyung, messy hair, leather bracelet, untucked shirt. Trouble. She froze, her pencil hovering in midair. He looked at her, one brow raised. "You're in my seat." Shima blinked. "What?" He smirked. "Just kidding, you're the art girl, right?" She nodded slowly. "Shin Ga-eun." "Right. You're perfect." "What?" "For my plan," he said, dropping into the seat across from her like they were old friends. "I need you to pretend to be my girlfriend." She almost dropped her pencil. "You... what?" "I'm serious," he said, leaning forward. "It's just fake, a temporary thing. You don't even have to do anything except walk next to me and maybe smile once in a while. You can do that, right?" She stared. "Why?" Do-kyung sighed, running a hand through his hair. "My exes are like mosquitoes. One bites and 10 more show up. I need a shield." Ga-eun blinked. "And you chose me?" He grinned. "Exactly. No one would believe I'm serious about you. That's what makes it perfect. They'll think I've gone completely insane and that'll scare them off." Her stomach turned. This was insane. This wasn't her world. And yet, something in her chest, something quiet and buried, whispered, "What if?" "What's in it for me?" she asked, surprising even herself. Do-kyung tilted his head, impressed. "What do you want?" She thought for a second, then said softly, "I want to know what it feels like to be someone people look at." He blinked, then nodded. Deal. By lunchtime, the entire school knew, the bad boy and the invisible girl, a pairing so impossible it had to be fake. And that was the point. But for Ga-eun, the chaos was real. Her desk, usually surrounded by silence, was now the center of attention. Girls whispered behind their hands. Boys stared openly. And Do-kyung? He leaned on her desk like he belonged there. "Do you always eat this little?" he asked, eyeing her lunchbox. She shrugged, still not used to. The way his presence filled the room. "You should eat more," he said, tossing her a pack of juice. "Fake girlfriend or not, you'll faint before midterms." She looked at the juice, then at him. And for the first time, he didn't look so much like a warning sign. He looked human. The next few days were surreal. He walked her to class, slung his arm over her shoulder in the cafeteria, called her Jagia, just loud enough to make people's jaws drop. At first, Ga-eun thought it was a joke, but then came the subtle things. He remembered her favorite snacks, picked out the sesame sticks and handed them to her without asking. He noticed when she looked cold and handed over his jacket with a lazy, "Don't make it weird." And once, just once, when someone shoved her on the stairs, he stepped in front of her like a shield and said, "Watch it." It wasn't part of the plan. None of it was, and Ga-eun didn't know how to handle it. In her journal that night, she wrote, "I know it's fake, but it doesn't feel like it. Is that dangerous?" Do-kyung didn't write journals, but if he had, he might have scribbled, "She doesn't ask for anything, not like the others. Why is that scarier?" The following week, something new happened. Han Seong-min appeared, sweet, quiet, always holding the door open for teachers. He sat next to Ga-eun during science and actually spoke to her, not because of Do-kyung, Not because of the rumor, just because I liked your art in the hallway display, he said softly. She blinked. Ah, you saw that, he smiled. I see you. 3 words. So simple, so devastating, because no one else had ever said them, not even Do-kyung. That afternoon, as Do-kyung waited for her outside the art room, he saw it. Ga-eun laughing with Seong-min, her face bright, eyes shining in a way he hadn't seen before. She reached out, touched his arm. Do-kyung's chest tightened. He didn't know why, didn't like the feeling, but he didn't say anything, just shoved his hands in his pockets and turned away. Later that evening, as they walked home together like usual, Ga-eun, I noticed the silence. You're quiet today. Are you complaining? No, just noticing. He shrugged. You seemed busy. With your new fan. She stopped walking. What? The nice guy. Seong-min. Oh, she hesitated. He's just friendly. Sure. Silence. Heavy, unspoken things swirling between them like storm clouds. Then he added casually, if this is too much for you, we can stop. She blinked. Do you want to stop? He didn't answer. And that, more than any words, was the answer. In her bed that night, Ga-eun stared at the ceiling. In her fake world, she was loved, desired, seen. But here, in reality, she was just a decoy, a placeholder. And it hurt. But in his room, Do-kyung stared at his phone, fingers hovering over her contact. He didn't text, couldn't, because if he admitted it was more than fake, he might lose everything. The strangest thing about pretending to be loved is that sometimes it feels more real than anything else. That's what Shin Ga-eun realized 2 weeks into the fake relationship. It started with the small things. Do-kyung stopped calling. It pretending. At first he'd remind her like a warning. It's just a show, he used to say. Don't catch feelings, he'd smirk. But lately, nothing, just silence. And his jacket on her chair when she walked into class early, and a folded note with drink water. You looked pale yesterday. And a pack of sesame snacks tucked into her locker with no name attached. It wasn't just noise anymore. It wasn't just performance. It was something quieter, softer, real. One day after school, they ended up sitting together under the big tree. Behind the gym, an unspoken routine forming between them. She was sketching. He was tossing pebbles at a bottle, missing every time. Then suddenly he said, "You're different when you draw." She looked up, startled. "What? You don't?" "Hunch, and your voice gets stronger." She blinked. "You notice that?" He threw another pebble. "I notice everything." Her heart stuttered, and when she looked back down at her notebook, her hand was shaking. Later that week, the art club had to stay late for banner painting. Do-kyung came to walk her home like always, leaning on the doorframe with a bored expression. "Are you going to be much longer, Picasso?" She turned to him. "You can go, I'll be fine." He shrugged. "I'm your fake boyfriend. I have to at least pretend to care." But when she glanced back after a minute, he was still there. Watching her paint like it was the most fascinating thing in the world, she dipped her brush again and smiled. By the end of that week, Ga-eun stopped writing in her journal because she wasn't dreaming anymore. She was living. The world began to shift. Girls who used to ignore her now waved awkwardly in the hallway. Boys she had never spoken to asked her opinion on their class projects. Teachers complimented her confidence. She walked taller, spoke louder, smiled more. Do-kyung noticed it all, and it scared him more than he could admit. One afternoon, Ga-eun tripped going up the stairs, her books flying. Do-kyung, without hesitation, crouched and helped her gather them. When she looked up, his face was close, too close. Her breath caught, their eyes locked, and for the first time, it didn't feel like part of the game. It felt like the moment before something irreversible. Then a group of students passed by, whistling. Whoa, they're really dating. Lucky guy or lucky girl. Do-kyung pulled away fast, stuffing the last notebook into her arms. "Let's go," he muttered. His voice was sharp again, like armor, and Ga-eun felt the wall return. The next day, Seong-min offered to help carry her paint supplies to the studio. She hesitated, then said yes. Do-kyung saw them from the second-floor window. Her laugh, his smile, how close they stood. Something in his chest twisted. When she got to her seat, he was already there waiting, us arms crossed, face unreadable. "You're getting popular," he said, not looking at her. She tilted her head. "What? You and Seong-min? Cute," she frowned. "Are you upset?" "Why would I be?" he said, standing up. "We're just pretending, right?" She flinched. Right, pretending, always pretending. At home, she sat in her room staring at the mirror. But for once, she didn't see the quiet, invisible girl from before. She saw someone who had been chosen. Protected, laughed with, noticed, and now someone who had been dismissed. Again. The next day, she didn't wait for Do-kyung after school. She walked home alone. He saw her leave, but didn't move. That weekend, her phone buzzed, a message from Seong-min. "Hey, our class is doing a community play. Want to help with the backdrop? You're really talented." She hesitated, then typed, "Okay, I'd like that." Monday arrived with new tension. She laughed with Seong-min in the courtyard. Do-kyung watched from across the lawn, his jaw clenched. Then someone asked, "Is it true you and Ga-eun are breaking up?" He snapped, "We were never together." The words echoed louder than he meant, and Ga-eun heard them, clearly. She turned. Their eyes met, his, full of panic, hers, full of understanding and hurt. He didn't chase her, didn't explain, because explaining meant feeling, and he was still too afraid of that. That night, Ga-eun sat alone in the school auditorium, helping paint the backdrop for the play. Seong-min brought her hot tea. "I'm glad you said yes," he said. She smiled. "I am too." Then he added quietly, "You're more than someone's shield, Ga-eun. You're the main character." Her hands trembled. No one had ever said that to her, not even Do-kyung. Meanwhile, Do-kyung sat outside the convenience store, watching couples pass by, their fingers tangled, heads leaned together. He could still feel her fingers on his arm from that day she almost fell. Still hear her voice when she called his name during club hours. He missed her, missed the version of himself that only existed when she looked at him, and it terrified him, because if it was real, he had already ruined it. The school festival was approaching. That meant noise, costumes, posters taped to every wall, and rehearsals that went far past sunset. It also meant Seong-min spent more and more time with Ga-eun. He was in charge of the theater group, and she had joined as the set designer after he asked so gently she couldn't say no. Every day after class, they painted and planned together. She started smiling more, laughing louder. Her world, once so small, was now full of light, and Cha Do-kyung noticed all of it. He didn't say anything, didn't ask where she was when she stopped walking home with him, didn't text when she left his jacket folded neatly on his desk with a quiet, "Thank you." But the silence between them was no longer comfortable. It was sharp, stabbing. He saw her standing in the sunlit courtyard with Seong-min, holding color swatches and talking like they were the only two people on earth. And every time he looked at them, something burned in his chest. Something dark, something terrifying, something that tasted like jealousy. At first he laughed it off. "Let her have her art, boy," he muttered to his friend at lunch. But then, one afternoon, he found a note. In his locker, no name, just a sentence. "She smiles more with him than she ever did with you." He crushed the paper without reading it again. That night, he went to the gym and punched the heavy bag until his knuckles split. Ga-eun, on the other hand, felt torn. Seong-min was kind, gentle. He complimented her ideas, waited for her to finish, speaking, held her brush when her hands got tired. He saw her, and he never made her feel like she had to pretend. With him, there were no games, no rules, no "don't catch feelings." Just presence. But even with all of that, her heart wouldn't stay still, because every time someone walked into the room, she found herself hoping it would be Do-kyung. Every time Seong-min smiled, she saw another face behind him. And when she lay in bed at night, her dreams were still filled with leather bracelets and half smiles and boys who refused to admit they cared. One day during rehearsals, Seong-min handed her a small gift bag. "Open it," he said, rubbing the back of his deck. Inside was a tiny charm, a paintbrush and palette keychain. "For your bag," he said. "So you remember you're an artist first, no matter what else happens." Her throat closed. "Thank you," she whispered. He looked at her carefully. "Ga-eun." She looked up. "I know you used to be with Do-kyung, or maybe you still are, but I just want you to know, I like you. For real." Her breath caught. She didn't know what to say, didn't even know what she felt. So she just nodded and walked away with the charm clutched in her hand like a secret. The next morning, she found Do-kyung leaning on her locker, back to the wall. Headphones, and when he saw her, he pulled them off. "Long time no see," he said, casual. She nodded. "I've been busy," he smirked. "With lover boy." Her smile faded. "Don't do that," she said softly. "Do what? Mock him or me?" "I'm not mocking, I'm just observing. Feels like mocking." He looked at her, expression unreadable, then reached into his pocket and tossed something into her hand. It was a packet of sesame sticks. "Thought you forgot those," he said. She stared at them, her favorite snack, something he hadn't brought her in weeks. He started to walk away. "Do-kyung," she called after him. He paused but didn't turn. "You don't have to pretend you don't care," she said. Silence. Then he replied, so quiet she barely heard it. "I'm not pretending, I'm just losing." And then he was gone. Ga-eun stood frozen, and in her chest something cracked. That evening, Seong-min waited for her outside rehearsal. "I was thinking," he said, "after the festival, maybe we could go see that art exhibit together, just the two of us." She looked at him, really looked, and for a moment she saw the version of herself he saw, confident, creative, worthy. She nodded. "Okay." The next day, Do-kyung heard it from someone else. "Did you know Ga-eun and Seong-min are going on a date after the festival?" He didn't react, just smiled, but his fists clenched so tight his nails cut into his palms. That night he sat on the rooftop, alone, watching the stars blur from the corners of his eyes. He didn't cry. Boys like him didn't cry. But something inside him was drowning, because he had never wanted anything real before, never allowed himself to, until her, and now. It was too late. The next afternoon, Ga-eun walked into the auditorium early. She didn't see anyone else except him, Do-kyung, sitting in the front row, staring at the empty stage. She approached slowly. "Didn't think you were coming to rehearsals," she said. He shrugged. "Just checking on my fake girlfriend, make sure she's still alive." She sat beside him. "You don't have to keep calling it fake," she said. He looked at her, really looked, and she knew. He was scared, terrified, of feeling too much, of losing, of admitting that everything he had said with his hands, with his snacks, his jacket, his silence, was real. She reached into her bag and took out the keychain Seong-min gave her, then set it on the armrest between them. "I'm not sure what I feel yet," she whispered. "But I want it to be real for once." He stared at the charm, then at her, then said quietly, "I'm not good at real." "I know." Silence. Then she stood, walked away, leaving the keychain behind. He didn't chase her. But for the first time, he wanted to. The festival came faster than anyone expected. By the time the paper lanterns were strung across the courtyard and the student band tested their mics on the rooftop, everything felt like it was moving too fast for Ga-eun to breathe. She tried to stay focused, on painting backdrops, on helping with props, on remembering where to stand when the curtains opened. But her heart was elsewhere, in the seat he stopped using, in the hallway he used to wait for her in the jacket she gave back, folded too neatly to feel like anything other than goodbye, Seong-min. "Noticed? You okay?" he asked gently as they repainted a wooden moon for the final scene. She nodded. "Just tired." He hesitated. "You don't have to say yes, you know. To the museum, if it's too soon." She looked at him, at his eyes so steady, so safe. "I want to go," she said. "I really do," and she meant it, or tried to. But part of her kept wondering if someone else was watching. He was. From the roof. Where? He used to go to skip class, nap, be alone. Now he only went there to feel the distance from her, from himself. He hadn't spoken to Ga-eun in 3 days, not since she left the keychain behind, not since she looked him in the eye and asked for something. Real, he wanted to give it to her, but he didn't know how, so he said nothing. The night before the festival, he stayed at school late. He found himself walking into the dark auditorium. The backdrops were already hung, stars painted carefully on black canvas, a castle in the background, a path of golden light across the floor. He stood in the center of the stage, remembering the way she used to look when she painted, focused, confident, beautiful. And suddenly he hated himself for every second he didn't tell her. The next morning, Ga-eun stood in front of her mirror in a borrowed dress. It was nothing special, but it felt different on her skin, like armor, or maybe a question. Would she finally be enough? She found Seong-min waiting near the auditorium. He smiled the second he saw her. "You look amazing," she blushed. "Thank you. Ready?" She nodded, but her eyes drifted, searching the crowd for someone she knew wouldn't be there. Inside the auditorium, lights dimmed. The play began. She moved through her scenes automatically, painting, rearranging props, smiling, pretending, always pretending, until the final scene. That was when it happened. She was adjusting the backdrop when she heard the door open, soft footsteps on the wooden floor. Then, his voice, from behind her. Low, rough, tired. "Is this where I'm supposed to clap?" She froze, turned slowly, and there he was, Do-kyung, hair messy, hoodie unzipped, eyes full of something too raw to be hidden. "What are you doing here?" she asked. He shrugged. "It's a free country." She laughed once, bitter. "You never came to rehearsals. Guess I missed watching you pretend to be someone else." She flinched. "That's not fair." He looked away. "Neither is this." "Then tell me what you want," she said. "Do you even know?" Silence. Then he said it. Quiet. Brutal. "I can't give you what you want, Ga-eun." Her breath caught. "What do you think I want?" "Something real. Something safe. A boy who smiles and shows up and doesn't mess everything up. And that's not you?" "No," he whispered. "It's not." She nodded once, tears burning. "So that's it?" He said nothing, and somehow that said everything. She stepped back, tried to breathe, then whispered, "You know what hurts the most?" That I believed it. I believed it all. And she walked off stage. Seong-min was waiting in the hallway. He saw her face and didn't ask questions, just opened his arms. She stood still for a second, then stepped into them and cried. Do-kyung sat on the stage long after the crowd left, long after the lights dimmed, long after the last paper lantern fell from the ceiling. He stared at the floor where she had stood, at the spot where he could have said, "Don't go," but didn't. The next morning, Ga-eun skipped class, walked along the riverbank with Seong-min, who brought warm tea and a quiet smile. "You don't have to talk," he said, but she did. "I used to think love was about being noticed." He listened, and then I thought it. It was about being chosen. Still, he waited. "But maybe it's about choosing back, even when it's scary." He looked at her. "Are you choosing me now?" She didn't answer. Not yet. At lunch, Do-kyung sat alone, his usual table, empty, his phone, silent. The world didn't feel loud anymore. It felt hollow, because without her, even the noise felt meaningless. Later that day, he found himself back in the music room, where it all started. He sat at the old piano, pressing keys that didn't quite work, then opened the drawer beneath the bench. Inside was her sketchbook. She must have left it weeks ago. He opened it slowly. The first page was him, drawn with such care. Sharp eyes, slouched shoulders, sad smile, the E. Title above, "The Boy I Never Expected to Matter." His heart cracked and then broke wide open. The final night of the school festival arrived with lanterns glowing soft gold and students buzzing with leftover adrenaline. The auditorium was full again, not for the play this time, but for the closing ceremony. One last song, one last bow. Ga-eun stood backstage, her costume neatly pressed, her hair pinned back, her hands shaking. Not from nerves, from something deeper. She hadn't seen Do-kyung in days, not since he said he couldn't give her what she wanted, not since he stood under that spotlight and let her go without a fight. But now, standing behind the curtain, hearing the murmurs of the crowd, she felt him in her chest, like a heartbeat that never really stopped. Seong-min stood beside her. He looked calm. Safe. He handed her the final prop, a small crown made of paper flowers. "You ready?" he asked softly. She nodded. Lied, the announcer stepped up to the mic. "Before our closing performance, we'd like to say thank you to the students who made this festival unforgettable." Applause, especially our art team, who transformed this space into something magical. More applause. Ga-eun stepped onto the stage with the others, a dozen students in line, smiling, waving. Her turn came. She bowed, the crowd clapped, and then the lights flickered, a door opened, and he walked in. Do-kyung, messy hair, black hoodie, eyes blazing. He didn't stop at the back. He walked straight down the aisle onto the stage, toward her. Gasps filled the room. The mic screeched as he pulled it closer. "Wait," he said. Everyone froze, even her. "I know this isn't part of the program," he said, voice shaking, "but I need to say something." He turned to the audience, then to her. His voice cracked. "I lied." Whispers erupted across the crowd. He kept going. "I said it was fake. All of it, the hand-holding, the nicknames, the jacket, but none of it was." Ga-eun's breath caught. "I didn't ask you to be my fake girlfriend because I thought it'd be easy. I asked because I was scared. Scared of real feelings. Scared that someone like you would never look at someone like me unless I gave you a reason." He stepped closer. She didn't move. "I told myself I didn't care. But I did. Every time you smiled. Every time you laughed at my dumb jokes. Every time you looked at me like I wasn't broken." Tears filled her eyes. "I said I couldn't give you what you wanted. But the truth is, I didn't know how to give you what you deserve." He took a deep breath, hands shaking. "But I'm ready to try now. If you'll let me." The room was silent. Then he took out something from his hoodie pocket, her sketchbook. He flipped to the first page, held it up for everyone to see, the sketch of him, the words she wrote. "The boy I never expected to matter. I matter," he said softly, "because of you." Then he looked straight at her. "And if it's not too late, I want to be yours, for real. No more pretending." The crowd held its breath. Ga-eun didn't move for a full second. Then she stepped forward, took the mic from his hand. "I was never pretending," she said, and then she kissed him. On stage, in front of everyone. No hiding, no games, no shame, just truth, just them. Applause exploded like fireworks. Students screamed. Someone cried. Do-kyung just smiled against her lips, resting his forehead against hers. "You still walk weird when you're nervous," he whispered. She laughed through tears. "How you still say dumb things when you're scared?" "I'm always scared around you," he said. She took his hand. "Then be scared with me." Later, they sat on the rooftop, overlooking the courtyard below. Paper lanterns swayed in the breeze. Music drifted up from the speakers. Ga-eun leaned against his shoulder. He held her hand, thumb tracing lazy circles. "Do you still think I need someone safe?" she asked. He looked at her, eyes soft. "No," he said. "I think you just needed someone honest," she smiled. "Then tell me one last truth." He turned toward her fully. "I'm not pretending anymore." "Me neither." They kissed again, and this time the stars watched quietly. On the last page of her sketchbook, she drew a new scene. 2 silhouettes on a rooftop, hands intertwined, a boy and a girl. And the caption, "The love story that started as a lie and became the only truth I believe in."